Hey, thanks for joining me to color. Today we're going to be working on this adorable Magnolia image called Tilda with rice hearts. Isn't she just too cute? I love her. I will put a link down in the description box to the card kit and all the supplies I used. I would love for you to come shopping with me. And if you have a question, leave me a comment and I will get back to you. So I've already stamped my image on Neenah 80-pound Solarite cardstock with Memento Tuxedo Black ink. So let's color. So let's start out by outlining our image with C0, and I'm going to start with the right side of my marker for one. I'm going to start down here at her foot, and I'm just going to pick a spot, and I'm going to go clear around her body and add a little shadow, go in here between some of these stems. I'm not being very careful, so if I get some on them, I'm not going to worry because we're going to paint those green or color them green. We're just going to give her a little bit of an outline so that she has a little something to make her pop up the page. And then I'm going to go around all of these cute little hearts. And then there's a little row of dots at the end of the hearts that I'm going to go around too. I'm going to go down here in between these stems real quick before I forget. And there's a little space right there between her cheek. And then let's go up here and finish these hearts. Up here. And if you do this first too, it will, if you get some on your girl and you want to erase her, it makes it a whole lot easier than after you've colored her. I always, since we're going to be doing her pants red, it would never fail that if I did it afterwards, I would have red everywhere. Get right in there. And over here to the other side. There's quite a few flowers there. Okay, and then we're just going to go down here. I think I'll do this little curly Q here too. Go around her braid. Get this little curly Q. And then work our way down here to her foot. And then she's got a little bit of background space right here that I want to fill in. Like that one, she's got a little dab right here between her overalls and that second braid. Next, let's do her skin. For that, we're going to use E11, E21, E00, E000, and for cheeks, I'm going to use RO2, 12, and 11. So I'm going to start with my E11, and I'm going to go down here, and she's got a little bit of her foot showing in between her shoe. So I'm going to get a little dab of my E11 here along the top of her foot, and then I'm going to go in with just a little swab of E21 to fill it in. Then we're going to go up here, and we're going to do her arm. So again, I'm going to go with E11 first. We'll get a little bit here right next to her sleeve. And then we're going to come up here and do under her arm. And I'm going to do a little bit on the back side of her thumb right here too. And then for this hand, I'm going to go make an upside down C like this. I think I'll go up just a little bit further. And then I'm going to grab my E21 and I want to soften those edges. So I'm going to touch down on top of my E11 and brush up into my white. Same for over here. I'll give this thumb just a little bit more color there. Next is E00. And again, I've touched down on top of my E21. And we'll do our thumb here. And we'll bring this color up a little bit. And then we're going to fill it in with our E000. And with this color, I like to go over the entire area. I think I'll go back back here with her arms, still looking a little patchy. I'm going to take my E21 and let's give this a little bit more color. And then E00. And then my E000 to go over the entire thing again to soften it. There, that looks better. Okay, now let's go up here and do her face. So again, I'm going to start with E11. So I'm going to do my E11 right next to her bangs, or her hair line. Go right along there with a little skinny line, and down here where it dips back behind her face. And then I think I'll do a little bit here where her shirt sleeve is touching her face. Like that. Next I'm going to go with E21. So I want to soften this line, so I'm going to touch down on top of it and flick my pen out here into my white. And then I'm going to bring this color around to join the other side. Work our way down here to the bottom. And I'm going to go with E00. And I'm not worried that it's not all blended, because after I do her cheeks, I'm going to come back with the second coat and soften all those lines up. And then it's E000. And I'm going to leave a little bit of white in the middle for a highlight for when I come back. Okay, so now we're going to do the cheeks. So I've grabbed R02. And I use these little dots on her cheek as my guide. So I want my R02 to be back here in the back, closest to the edge of her cheek. And then we'll go with R12. And then R11. And I think I'll go back again with my R02 and just give it a little bit more pink back here. Okay, then I'm going to go with my E21. And let's flick away from this side over here, since it's tipped down. And I'm going to do a little bit less on this side. And then we'll go with E00. Bring this past her cheeks. Same for this side. And then for E000 to go across the entire thing. I think I'll still pinker her cheeks up a little bit more, so I'm going to grab R02. R12. And then R11. And then I'm going to take my E000 to go over those cheeks. For her hair, let's use E44, 25, 43, 50, and 49. And I'm going to start with my E44 first. And let's start on this side over here. So she's got a little bit of hair that's coming away from her face right here, by kind of like where her ear would be. So I'm going to give that a little brush of my pen. And then where it's coming out from her, well, I want to do this little section right here too that's dipping inside of her hair. Right here, I'm going to color that all the way in. But this part, I'm going to give this a little flick. I'm going to kind of bring it up past this little curve right here. And then each one of these little sections that looks like it's dipping underneath, I'm going to give those a little spot of color. And let's do where it comes down right here. And right here, it looks like it's kind of going back behind. And then I also want to do just a little bit coming away from her roots. So I'll give that a little dab of color in there. Okay, now let's go over here and do this side. So she's got a couple of little braids over here. So I'm going to start down here at the bottom of this braid and give the bottom section a little color. And then she's got a little hair tie right here. So I want to give a little bit in between after the hair tie. And then each of these little braided sections I want to give a little dab of color where it's kind of going into the next one. Right here it looks like it's bent, so I'm going to give that a little dab. And then of course right here next to her cheek. And the same thing for this one down the second braid here. We're going to go right along the edge. Get this little corners here. This little whoop-de-doo that's going behind. There. And then again there's a hair bow on this side. And then each little braid, where it looks like it's dipping in. And then let's do where it's coming away from her face. And right here where it looks like it's tipping, going behind her ear. And she's actually got a little hair bow right here too. Okay. And then let's color this cute little part right here that's going out of the hair bow, and this section that's behind. And then we're going to do her part. And then each one of these little sections that looks like it's dipping behind the other section. And I'm going to do right here along this edge too. And for this little curly Q, let's do the inside section of the curly Q. And then we're going to go with E25. So we want to add a little bit of color on top of this. Turn my girl a little bit more here. And we'll just brush some more of this. It's kind of a reddish brown, so we're going to brush a little bit of that in there. That. Then let's go down here and do these cute little braids. So again, we'll add a little bit, a few more streaks in here. That. And let's work our way up this side too before I forget. Add some color in here. This one's touching this section. And this one kind of dips down in, so I'm going to add a little bit of color in here. Like that. And then we're just going to work our way up. So I'm going to do the next little section of this little curly Q. And I try to keep my little streaks going in the direction that the hair is curling towards. Okay, I like that. So now we're going to add E43. Here. And to each of the braids. And work our way up here towards the top. Then I'm going to go with my E50 to fill it the rest of the way in. So I'm just going to grab my E50 and go over her entire hair. And you can also leave white in there if you like that. I can just never get it to look right, so I always tend to fill it all the way in. Here. That. Then I'm going to go back with my E49, which is my very darkest color, and I'm going to add a few of the dark streaks in moderation. Let's go up here. And how about this little section that dips in? And then, whoops, let's do this little part right here that's coming away from her face. Like that. And then I want to do each of these little bumps right here. And a little dab in the part. And then let's switch over here to this side. And we want to do some down here on these braids. And maybe a little dab down here on the bottom of each of these little curls. We're just going to work our way up here to her part again. And then we'll do a little bit up here in her part. And then I want to soften that just a little bit, so I'm going to take my E44 and add a few of those back in too. Soften a little bit of that darkest color. And our little braids. For her shoes, we're going to use E44, 43, 42, and 41. I'm going to start with my E44. I'm going to give that a little bit of a dab up here on the top where her pants kind of touch her shoe. And then I want to come down here around the back. And I'm going to go right along the sole here. I think I'll give it a little bit of a brush, so I'm going to just brush it away from here, just a little bit. Soften it just a little bit more there. Next I'm going to add E43. So I'm going to brush right over the top of that line. And I think I'll use this to go underneath of my ruffle on her shoe. Give that a little bit of a dab of color. Next is E42. And then E41 to swirl over the entire shoe and this ruffle. And then I also want to do the sole of her shoe. I'm not liking how that blended, so I'm going to grab E43. Let's add just another coat of that. And then E42. And then E41 to go over the entire shoe again. Let's do the stems on the flowers next. For that, we're going to use G94, YG63, and YG61. I'm going to start with my G94, and let's give it where we want it to be the darkest. So let's do a little bit here where it's coming away from her hand. Get a few of those little things in there. And then these here in the middle, let's do a little dab where it's coming away from her cheek. And let's do this one right here. I'm going to fill that one all the way in. Here's one, and then again it's going behind her. So let's give each of those little sections some color. And then where it's coming away from her body down here. And this section's coming out from behind. And I'm going to give this one where it bends. Next I'm going to go with YG63, and I'm going to fill these in the middle in. And then down here we're going to add a little bit more. I want to leave the tips white because we're going to use our lightest color down here at the ends. And then we'll get a little dab coming up here in a few of these. And then YG61 to fill in these tips. And if you have any little bits left up here. For these little hearts up here, let's use R89, R37, and R35. I'm going to start with my R89, and I just want to give each of the little hearts at the bottom a little dab of our darkest color. So I'm just going to go around here and make little V's, and these little circles or ovals at the top, I'm going to give those a little dab too. Work our way over here to the other side. There's lots of little hearts. That. Then I'm going to go back with R37, and I'm just going to do the same thing. So I just want to add some color on top of my R89. But we want to leave some room for R35, so don't fill it all the way in. Work our way over here to this other side. You can also, if you didn't want to color them with your Copics, you could take your Spica glitter pen and use that. That would be really pretty with lots of sparkles. And then I'm going to go back and do the entire heart with R35. I'll just go back over each heart. And I try to kind of swipe over the last two colors too to blend those a little bit together. dab here. Let's work our way over to the other side. Trying to be very careful. It's red, me and red. I love it, but it's just such a pill for me. And clear over here. Did I get them all? Yep. So I think I'll do her shirt next so I don't have to worry about touching the red on her overalls and carrying it into her shirt. So we're going to use R 00, 000, and quadruple 0 for her shirt. I'm going to start with R 00. And let's do this sleeve. So for her cute little sleeve, I'm just going to take my R 00 and flick it right like this into the middle. And then she's got a little bit of her shirt that's showing right down here where her overalls are. And then I'm going to go with R 000 next. I'm just going to go ahead and fill in down there at the bottom. And then I'm going to go ahead and grab, whoops, I'm going to do the rest of her shirt sleeve up here with R quadruple 0. And then I wanted it to be a little bit darker, so I'm going to take my R 00 again and make it just a little bit darker. And then R 000. And then R quadruple 0 to fill that shirt in. But then I'm going to give it a last swipe of my R 00 to darken that up just a little bit more. And then I see right here above her shirt is a little patch of skin. So I'm going to grab where is it? E 00. And I'm just going to fill that little dab of skin in right there. So for pants, let's use R89, 37, 35, and 32. I'm going to start with my R89. Let's do a little dab right here on this seam. And then we're going to bring this side out just a little bit. And then we want to do a little bit underneath of her arm. And then I think I'll go around the back of the pocket. And then I want to continue down here and do on her body, on her legs. I'm trying to do just a small line. And we want to come down here. And I'm going to come down to this seam. And then let's do this little strap. And I think I'll do this little seam right here behind her shirt. I'm going to bring that all the way down into here. And then I want to do in front of the seam of her jeans. And then let's do her fanny. And the back of her pocket. And I'm going to bring this in. She's got a few little dots right there, so I'm going to go ahead and do those, and then come down here to the bottom of her leg again. That. And then I'm going to go with R37. And I want to go right over the top of my R89 and add some R37 on top. I'm going to go ahead and cover this little section right here on her belly all the way up. And I'm going to brush down along our line. And I think I'll add a little bit to her pocket right here. And I'm going to work my way back along the seams here. And just soften that line. And I want to bring this right at this seam right here. Add a little bit to her pocket. And I think I'll bring this line around this side of her pocket. Then I'm going to grab R35. I'm going to bring this pretty much over here to the seam that was running on the back of her pocket there, or the back side of her overalls. And then just leave a little bit of white down here on her leg. Same with this. I want to bring it up here towards the seam. And her pocket. And then we're going to go with R32 to fill it the rest of the way in. And I think I'll go over this another time here. Do a little bit more blending. And I think that looks pretty good. For her hair tie she's got in her hair, I'm going to use R37 to just color those in. So she's got one right here. And one right here. And another one right here. And then for the ground, we're going to use W2 and W1. So I'm going to grab W2 first. And I like to start my line up a little bit past her sole of her shoe. And I'm just going to brush a little bit out. And then I'm going to take W1 and soften the edges a little bit. And then I go back with my W2 and add in just a little bit more dark. And her eyes, I didn't stamp them very good, so I'm going to take my 100 pen and I'm just going to color those in. And I waited to do them last because I wanted her face to dry so it wouldn't get messed up and bleed out maybe. It's pretty dark. So there's our beautiful Tilda with rice hearts all colored up. Didn't she turn out pretty? And then again, here's the finished card. So on my finished card, I have added some Stickle Stardust to the lace on her shirt here. And then I used some Spica glitter pen on her hair to get some sparkles. And I did some Wink of Stella brush in clear on all these hearts up here. Make them really sparkly. And then these little dots I took a gold, it's a new Copic pen. I can't remember what it's called, but they're in the store. I'll put a link down in the bottom there. And then for this little love word here, it cuts out like this, but in your kit I also included the cutout, so in case you wanted to use the solid letters, you could. So I hope you had fun coloring with me today. Again, if you have a question, leave me a comment and I will get back to you. Otherwise, we'll see you next time. Have a great day. Bye.